Hello, everybody. It's Marcy from wavesofcommunication.com. And I expect it'll take a couple seconds for some folks to join me live. So welcome if you're watching on the replay, and welcome to those of you who are joining me live. This is a live Q&A session as well as an info session. So you are welcome to put your questions in the comment section while you're watching me live, and even if you're catching on the replay. So my name is Marcy Melzer, as I said, and I am an intuitive speech and language pathologist. I practiced as a speech therapist for 30 years. And one of the common standards in speech therapy work is picture cards. So it makes sense for parents to want to know how to use picture cards to facilitate spoken language. And that's what we're going to get started with as a discussion at the beginning of this video. And then I have a couple questions that I've received from parents over the course of the week to get to as soon as I finish with this topic. So like I said, if you're joining me live, please post your question in the comments. I do want to take just a second to remind the parents who are joining me, both for the first time and those of you who have been watching me for a while, that these strategies videos are general strategies. I can't possibly know what's going on in your individual life, in your home. So you, as a language facilitator parent, are charged with watching these videos and taking the information, assimilating it yourself so that you can integrate these strategies into your life. If I told exactly how to do everything step by step, everyone must say the same thing, do the same thing, the strategies would only work for a very, very small number of people. So I really encourage every parent who's watching me to take all of the videos that I put out, including this one, and apply it to your life using the other videos that you watch on my channel. There are more than 200 videos here, and what's happening with parents who are following me, that's why I'm talking to those of you who have been following me for a while, the folks who ask me questions every week. What happens a lot on the language facilitation journey is it goes like this. It's up and downs. And I have people who are trying really hard at working with their kids, eliminating prompting and starting to do different kinds of functional language facilitation, like during your everyday activities, which is what I encourage more, helping your child learn to use the spoken language they need for their everyday jobs. Using those everyday jobs is always my favorite way to go about it. However, there are many parents who have been following me for a while, and you're already starting to get certainly some great joint attention and focus. That's always what I see. Better eye contact. And we're not talking about this kind of eye contact. We're talking about kids who are looking to their parents to start to talk and say the language that they want to hear, because that's what language facilitation is, everybody. We facilitate the language. You as parents and everyone who is trying to work with a child to facilitate natural spoken language needs to provide them with easy, happy, safe, and fun opportunities to hear adults who know how to use language well. Use those language structures functionally during everyday activities to teach your kids to talk. And because you all have been working so hard with your kids at home, changing how you're talking to them. That's what the swapping the prompting challenge was all about, is when parents change how they are modeling words, how they are talking to their kids, with their kids, and around their kids, even to other people, that's when they are providing language models that kids want to hear. And then when they want to hear those things, they integrate them much more readily, easily, happily. And when they integrate those things that they hear, then they turn around and they're able to use them functionally. So I keep talking about that because what you might see, you could. In fact, I'm sure you could. Google right now and go on YouTube and type using flashcards, using picture cards to teach kids to talk. You could Google that and find other videos that will describe how to get kids to say words using cards. But this video, these strategies are different because we facilitate spoken language by modeling words. Whenever we present new things, we present things the kids will find fun, no matter how old the kid is. So what I have done for you today, for everybody who's watching me, thanks for everybody who's joining me, by the way. Please give this video a like and share it out with your friends if you want. So what I've done here today for this strategy session about using picture cards to facilitate spoken language is I have 6 different tips that I'm going to share with you. And 5 and 6, number 5 is the biggie where there are secret tips I'm going to tell you about how to actually use cards to facilitate the talking. The secrets that I use with picture cards, because like I said, picture cards are not my favorite, but I used them for a lot of years as a therapist. So I'm going to give you some ideas. I'm giving you 5 tips to get your kids talking using picture cards. And the number 6 tip is for families who already have kids who are using needs-based language, how to get them to use picture cards to ask and answer questions. So the first thing we're going to talk about is tip number 1 for teaching your child to use spoken language is choose your cards wisely. All right. And by wisely, I don't mean go out and buy the cards that your speech therapist has or even the cards that I'm going to show you today. By choosing wisely, I mean choose the cards that your child will be interested in. Whatever it is about them, the subject matter must be something that your child finds interesting. Not what you think, not what somebody told you, what you think, okay? So if your child likes Mickey Mouse or Peppa Pig or a character or something like that, you might find picture cards with those characters on them. Sesame Street, whatever. There are many, many, many choices for picture cards. But if you don't have any, then you should choose ones that your kids will like. If you have some lying around your house, then you have to find a way to make those cards more interesting, which is tip number 3. But let's get to tip number 2, because before you move into tip number 3, you need to know step number 2. Oh, wait a minute. First of all, I wanted to show you a couple examples of cards. So the cards that I have, I don't even work with kids anymore, but I do have a daughter who is a speech therapist, and I did keep some of my leftover speech therapy stuff in a box. I have 1 box left after I used to have a whole room full. If you've seen some of my tip of the week videos before, the ones that I put, the wall behind me used to be filled with toys, and I sold them all at a sale about a year ago because I made the decision that I am not nearly as good of a language facilitator as the people I'm training. And I kept some stuff for my daughter, and I kept a couple things to use as examples for you all. So first thing, I'm going to show you my favorite card deck, and this is one that I still use as an example, and it is these action cards, okay? They come in a tin box, which is one of the reasons I like them. I bought them on Amazon, and let me show you. Let me see if I can find the camera here. The picture on here, they're photo action cards. They are produced by this, I don't know, Smethport. There you go. You can check it out, screenshot it, whatever, so you can see. But this is a tin box. They're nice and big, and these cards have photographs. So I'll show you a few of them. They are super simple, so there's not even a background. So they must have like green screened them or something like that. So they could just put the picture on a white background. And it's very simple pictures of actions, and I like that they're photographs. That's what I like about these pictures. I like that they're photographs, and I like that they're kids doing things that kids like to do. And over the years, when I use these, you can tell the box is really beat up. It's got scratches and dents and all that. That's why I like metal box, because I used to schlep these things around to parents' houses in a bag every week, and I'd go visit 30 different families a week. And I'll tell you what, a lot of little kids have used these cards back when I was doing speech therapy. But I like them so much because they are pictures of kids, real photos of children who are doing things that children like to do. So if you don't have any cards in your life, you might want to think about a picture set that has verbs in it, if you are so inclined that you're desperate to use. But I'm telling you what, if you use, instead of a photo, if you take your child out to dig in the dirt, you'll be able to facilitate a ton more language than you will talking about the picture. However, they are handy because that's actually one of the tips that I'm going to use. So the first tip is, here's the pictures that you like, pictures that your kids will enjoy. Another deck that I have is a deck that I got as a speech therapist. These are pictures that come, that mine's written on because it has my name on the back, but here's a photo of the front of them. Arctic photos. These are produced by a company called Super Duper Publications, which is like the #1 therapy materials company for speech therapists. And they have these are for the G sound. I don't even have all of them. I gave them to my daughter because she's in elementary school and they're doing all kinds of articulation therapy and playing games with these cards. But these are the G sound. And what's nice about this deck, that is one of the characteristics that I like in a good therapy deck, if you're going to use it for language facilitation, speech facilitation, is that they all have pairs. So these also are photographs, and there's a pair of each one. And they include, it's not actions. There are some actions in here, but it's, again, objects that children really relate to, that they see. So here's a hamburger. Here's a picture of a toy frog. So instead of a line drawing of a frog, it's an actual photo of a toy frog that a child might actually see, because a lot of children don't see real live frogs, even if they see a photograph of it, right? But they will see a picture, or they will see a plastic one somewhere probably in their life. So that's what I like about this deck. Here's food. Like I said, it has food. It has people doing action. So here's a singer. And like I said, as far as me, here's animals. That's what I like a lot about these decks. Household things like here's a plug and a household plug. Here's a hot dog. So these are the pictures that I like. I like photographs. I like things that have a match. That's why there's so many in this deck, because there's lots of games you can play when you have cards that have matches. And then, so like I said, choosing the cards that your child will be interested in. Now, these are not, if I had a child, a toddler child, and I was choosing to buy a brand new deck of cards, I would definitely go for something like this versus these guys, because they are bigger and you're not going to use them very much. Because tip number 2 is that when you're starting, if your child isn't used to using picture cards at all, you want to use fewer than 10. My recommendation is start with 2. If your child's a toddler, you can use the same number as their age. That's kind of the way I used to like to gauge it, depending on the child. Now, if your child loves cards and they carry them around all the time and they're doing things with them, that's also very good, but you still want to limit the number of cards that you're going to use for your language facilitation situation, because here's the deal. It's not about the cards at all. It's about, the cards are just ideas for you and to use opportunities to tell your child nice phrases and sentences and give them models for language. Now that you've got them listening to you, you've swapped out your prompting for nice language facilitation, but now your kids want to hear you talk about things. They don't want you to go back to prompting them to say the things they know. They want to learn new things. And that's what these picture cards should provide for you as a purpose, because there's certainly not, even in this whole big giant stack of pictures, not nearly enough vocabulary to teach a child all the things they need in daily life. And you don't want your teaching to be limited to the vocabulary in the pack. You want to use the vocabulary in the pack to offer you your intelligence, your creativity and imagination and knowledge of your child to facilitate the words that you want, that they want to say. So you're going to use these cards as that model. So you don't need many, only as many as the child's age, or if your child is really super good at it, I recommend 6 as your max, because I'll tell you what, by the time you go through this process to work with these cards, 6 is a lot. Maybe even 1 card is all you need, because I'm telling you what, I could talk a lot about this card. Think about all the things that you can say about one picture like this, right? Tons of things that would interest your child, especially if they're a boy who likes to dig. If you show them this card and talk about it, they're going to be interested in learning more and more from you and listening to the talking that you're doing. And that's the goal of these cards, is to get your child attentive, interested, so you can use your language facilitation talking and provide them with the models that they want. So, hi Ramya, thanks for joining. Glad you subscribed to my channel. I'm so glad to be learning. I'm glad you'll be learning something new. So excellent. I hope that you do. All right. So the next tip, after you pick the cards that your child likes, right, with a topic that your child would like if your child would like digging in the dirt, these kinds of things. I mean, a lot of kids like running around and playing outside. So cards with action in them. You don't have to use the characters from TV. Use the things that they love, right? You can find these on Amazon even. All right, so tip number 1 was choose your cards wisely. Tip number 2, don't use very many of them, all right? Now, tip number 3 is you have to work at your child's level of interest, because if you overteach, if you start to get into teaching mode, Zumo, they'll go away, right? We know most late talkers don't like to be prompted, and if you start pulling out these cards and asking them questions about these cards, then you're going to lose them immediately, and they're never going to want to play cards with you again. This is how you start the process to get them to love it, okay? So the first tip is for kids who don't like cards at all, who hate them, who use them at school, or who would eat them every time you get them. Like they don't even know what they're for or whatever. So this is what you do with those. You have to, if your child is not even interested in using the cards at all or looking at them at all, then you just use them as an activity to do something with. So you get a container, like here's a jar with a lid that's got a funky lid like that. And then you take the cards by one, and you don't look at what's on them even. Don't even worry about what's on them. They're just things in your hand, right? Boom, in the card. Here's 1. You don't have to count them. You can say a card. You can say in. You can say, look at me. Look what I'm doing. I put a card in. Drop it in. Card is in the bucket. Right? I'm not talking about the vocabulary on the card at all. I just found this fun container I can talk in to get the child's attention. And then they can reach in and pull out the cards and put them in and out, right? That's how you play with cards. And see, what I did here was I got the child's attention by talking in the box. Listen to my voice. I'm using a big thing. And then when I pull it out, I might say, look, it's a hamburger. And then I won't even show it to the child necessarily. I'm going to use these cards and demonstrate how to play with these cards and just make them fun because I'm talking in a thing. And, so this is just one example. So you can get a box that opens and closes. Here's a jewelry box. I'm literally in my storeroom finding things. Open and close a jewelry box and snap them in there. Cut a hole in the top of a container that you got yogurt or something like that in and slide them in like a mailbox. Slide them in, slide them out. But that's the trick. While you're playing with the cards, You're not really talking about what's on the card at all. You're just talking about what to do with the cards. Hey, Sharon, thanks for joining. And you welcome everybody to say hi during the live chat. I'm going to be getting in here, bopping in and out, looking at questions. So if you do have a question for me today, put it in the comments. We're just talking about playing with picture cards right now. And remember, so far, we're already into tip 3, and we haven't even talked about what's on the cards necessarily, except for that it's going to be interesting to your child, and you figured out why is my kiddo going to want to look at these few cards that I have. Because if you haven't done that, you got to go back to steps 1 and 2, because otherwise you're not going to be able to fuel your own imagination. Right? If you look at this card and you think, well, my child, if you have a princess in your house who doesn't like to get dirty, then when they look at this card, they're going to say, ew, dirty. It's dirty. Look at his shoes or whatever. I don't know. There could say something completely different than you think would be on there. Right? But your idea, use your imagination. What's my kiddo going to like about it? And in this pack, there's 40 cards. So you could go through here and you only got, like I said, if your child's 2 or 3 or 4, you only got to pick 4. So then you get the tip. Like I said, you get it. So Ramya, I'm so glad you're joining in to take on this tip. So when you get these cards, like I said, you're going to go ahead and get your child interested in them, right? So that's the next tip, is to play with them, but talk about what you're doing. The card's going in, the card's going out. I got a card, you got a card. It's my turn, it's your turn. In and out, big and little. Ooh, it fits, it doesn't fit. Which direction. If your slot's small, maybe the card can't fit in the whole way. All those ways to talk about how to play with the card are better language facilitation, even at least to get you started, right? Even before you do it, right? So then the next tip, number 4, is to use photos with action. So even if you don't have a photo like this one, it's pretty easy, right? So you see the kiddo doing the action and you pantomime the action. And some of these in here are things that you can do with your kids. Here's a child bouncing a ball, kicking a ball, swimming, all these different things. But the trick is, if your child isn't interested in cards, or to get them more interested in cards, if you do the activity yourself and then talk about, while you're doing the activity, I'm digging, if you're out in the garden planting, or even putting in your compost or shoveling snow, you're digging and digging and digging. And then when you see a card of a child digging, you have this experience to relate it to. You were digging with mom and dad outside digging snow, and here this boy is digging dirt. He's digging like you. And as soon as you relate your child to the thing, that's why I said you got to pick cards that your kids will like, because once you relate them to it, then they're going to take it from you. And they're going to look at it and they're going to examine it. And they're going to be thinking in their head, how does this picture relate to my experience? The words, the movies, the language that's inside of them, right? And the trick of language facilitation is, how do we get this stuff that they're thinking? How do we get it to come out? An amazing way is with action. Look at me do this action. And if you have the right picture at the right time, when you're thinking about doing things, pantomiming that stuff. And so do the action yourself. Model the action for you and your child, and then also have your child try the action. Have them pantomime it, or give them a digger, give them a shovel or even a spoon. Like if you're in the house and you're at the kitchen table and they're doing it, if you have to use props like that action, talk about you're digging with the spoon, and then maybe they're digging in their cereal or their rice if they're using a spoon to eat. So those are the things that help you connect connect the picture to your child and get them interested. And that's why I said you can't use more than 2 or 3 or 4 if your child's a toddler, because good Lord, that's a lot of attention. We're looking at the picture, we're talking about it, we're relating it, I'm demonstrating what I'm doing. So you see me as a human doing the action, and right here is the picture, okay? So this is what you want to, and kids who are used to technology, they are used to learning this way. They watch things on a screen and then they want to try it. And this helps you do match their love of 2D things with their love of you and watching you do silly things. So if the child's doing something silly in here, like here's one, oh, look, here's a girl blowing bubbles, right? It's easy to blow bubbles and do that and look like that. And it's an easy thing to try to catch. You can make soap bubbles with dish soap in your sink. Anything you see on the card, you can pick and do things. If this is a great one for kids who love to play outside. Like this one has a lot of pictures with kids with balls. Now, you don't even have to buy pictures. You can find photos of kids doing things online, or you can just demonstrate the actions yourself, which is my better way. But this video is we're talking about pictures. So like I said, those action pictures are a great way to help your child understand how verbs work. And then the other thing that you want to do in this, when you are talking about the actions while you're doing them, when you pair the action with the photo, talking about the actions, make sure you talk about them in first person, like, look at me, I am shoveling. Oh, I see you. You are shoveling. And use proper nouns. Marcy is shoveling. Look at Marcy. Marcy is strong. Marcy can lift, heavy snow. And, you say that in your case, you use mama and you use Joey. Look at Joey digging. Joey is great. Now, the other thing that you hear me saying about that play-by-play of the action that you do, give that critique. Look at this girl. Wow. Give her compliments, just like you do with your child. Ooh, she blew a big bubble there. Look at her pretty hat. So that's the other thing that we talk about. That's the next tip. And this is the secret one that will really help you facilitate words faster than anything, right? This is the one that will teach you to do it faster. So what you do with this child is you wait. So this is the tip number 5. You, if possible, do not tell your child what is on the picture until they independently look at the picture. So, for example, if you are, let's say you're playing with pictures and putting them in the jug, right? And you get one out and your child pulls it out of the jug and they look at it, right? That's when you say the name of the picture. You don't say, look, we've got frog and tiger. Oh, they're upside down. Tiger, and don't tell your child what's on the cards before they find the first interest. So here's how you do it. Put them face down or put them in a container like my jug there, and let your child pick it up and show them how to do it first. So you go, I wonder what it is. I wonder what it is. Show them how you do it. It's a tiger. So I said it. Look, I didn't even show you. I said, it's a tiger, because the first thing I want to do is talk about cards when I pick them up. So I'm demonstrating for the child. Here's how we're going to play with these 3 cards I have, right? I wonder what the first one is. Anticipation, getting anticipation. I'm making it so fun. It could be anything. It's like, It's so exciting. The excitement on my face is going to be like, what is it? What is it? What is it? Right? I'm going to say, it's a tiger. Look. And then I'm going to say, look at the tiger, isn't it? And then I'm going to give a critique about the tiger. What made me, whoops, I'm throwing the tiger. What made me so excited about this hamburger that I went, oh, wow, it's a hamburger. I love hamburgers. I can't wait to eat a hamburger. And then after you look at the picture, you take it and you put it in the jug, and you do not expect your child to say the word. But I said the word hamburger when I talked about this picture 5 or 6 times in different contexts. It is a hamburger. I like hamburger. Hamburgers are yummy. Maybe we should have hamburgers for dinner. You know, all of those things I said before I put it in the thing. I didn't say hamburger 5 times. What is it? I didn't ask the child. I didn't even ask him if he liked hamburgers. I just talked about it because I have it. It's my turn, right? So, right, all the time you think, this is what we learned in speech therapy school. Rum says, oops, that's what I've been doing all these years. It's a this, it's a this, it's a this, right? Because when you do that with picture cards, that triggers from a neuroscience perspective, the occipital lobe, the visual center. Excuse me. Let me get a little drink. Whenever you ask a child to label a picture or ask a child to identify it, which one is the hamburger? Whenever you do that or say, what is this? Immediately, the process that triggers in your brain is the visual center. I'm looking at that thing to see what it is. And their memory center. Do I know the word that represents, that matches it? Because they expect you to give them a result. Because why otherwise would you be modeling the word? Even though you're not saying, say the thing, the child is, the task is memorize this. That's what you're saying. When you say, it's a frog, that means it's a frog. Memorize that, put that vocabulary in your brain so that the next time I ask you, you'll know what it means. Every child knows, if they've ever done flashcards with you once, even one time that you've done that immediately teaches the child next time you get flashcards out, they're going to be expected to label the memorized pictures. It's a job, right? Kids don't like jobs, they like play. So that's why we don't even talk about what's on the card until your child looks at it. So if they pull it out of the thing, you're like, oh, you got a card. Don't even ask what it is. Don't ask what is it. Just say the obvious. Talk about the actions. I'm putting the cards in the bucket. I'm taking the cards out of the bucket. Ooh, I got a card. I got 2 cards now. I'm one in each hand. We're not even talking about what's on them. And so much language is being facilitated here. Just talking about the actions of the cards. So all along, in all of the strategies videos you watch on my channel, you will see that I always say it is not about the pictures or the cards or the objects. It's about you. It's about how you play with these things in a way that you talk about it. So just having cards in themselves is a thing. Right? So this is what's good. They look, Ramya, exactly. So they pull it out and you see their eyeballs going and you're like, it's a hamburger, right? Look at that hamburger. You can even say, look at that blank. Because they are. Just when they pulled it out, you got a card. Look at that. That's what they're thinking. Because what you did when you pulled it out, when you said, look at that green frog. Look at that. It's so slimy. Yuck. I hate frogs. What's next? It's a hamburger. Look at that. And your child's going to be like, you are wacko, mama. But they'll be looking at you. And they'll be looking, think about the stuff kids are watching on videos. I've been thinking about doing TikTok videos but it's only the kids. They're on there watching crazy stuff. That's what they like, right? So you got to be more like that if you are a language facilitation mama. And you don't have to prompt your child to say the words, because remember, language facilitation parents, they don't ask their kids to do it. They don't ask them. So, all right. So the thing is, that's the other trick. That's the other trick that I wanted to tell you that I wrote down. I just had to look at my notes. So first of all, you don't say what's on the card until your child looks at it. But here is the super duper trick for a very savvy, very intuitive language facilitation mama. So what happens is when you're looking at a picture like this, and you pulled it out, and maybe you already talked about it because you did the digging and you showed your child all of those things, and now it comes time for your child to maybe want to be starting to put in their own 2 cents about the conversation that you're talking, because they should. You're talking about something they love. They love digging in the dirt. They're a boy who loves to wear boots, or they're a kid who has a wagon. You have dirt outside your house. So you picked this picture for a reason, right? And you're talking about the reason that your child likes it with them. So when you're no expectation. You're providing the language models here while your child's playing with it, putting it in, taking it out, doing whatever with the card. And then when they finally get it from you and hold it in their hands and look at it, and you go, wow, what you say right then needs to match what they're thinking. So the first thing is they're not thinking a question like, what is that boy doing? They're looking at the things and matching them to the things that they love. Look at his boots. Look at his shovel. Look at his haircut. I don't know, whatever they're looking at. You know your kiddo. And this is what's the secret about picture cards. Even though it says hamburger on it, you might not call this a hamburger. You might call it a sandwich. You might be talking about the seeds. You might be vegetarian and you don't even eat hamburgers. I don't eat hamburgers really anymore. So the thing is, you can still find things to talk about that relate to your individual reason. Why would you choose this picture? Remember, it's all about the language behind it. And when your child looks at it, you got to say the thing, he's really cool. If it's a princess, wow, her dress is beautiful. That's what you want to say. What feelings has your excited animation talking about the picture? What feelings has that stirred up in your kiddo when you are modeling these things, recommending these things? Look at this thing. Wow. Isn't this cool? Let's talk about this, right? And then you tell stories about it and all of that. Now, I do have to go one more step. The next step is all those steps so far are for limited verbal kids who really aren't using much vocabulary at all. They're maybe at the pop out word stage. They're understanding and following directions, but they're still using a lot of nonverbal communication for their everyday. They're using pulling you, their meltdowns, maybe they're decreasing because they're using single words, things like that. So if your child is using needs-based stuff, maybe they've got some echolalia, they've got some standard phrases they use a lot, the I want, the can I have, the my turn, the no and yes, and those kinds of things. And if that happens, a lot of parents find themselves, this is very, very common, again, for those of you mamas who have been watching me and you've done the swapping the prompting challenge and your child, and if you haven't, by the way, Ramya, for all of you who are joining me new, there is a playlist here on YouTube called Get Started with Language Facilitation here. That playlist is like a little mini course. You need to go through all those videos. This is not, you guys, this is not magic. When the parents you see on the testimonials of the people who follow my page, the people who don't pay me, the people who do pay me, the people who do language facilitation as a targeted job, they take on the responsibility to do the whole thing. I cannot tell you exactly what to do every day unless you invest to work with me in my lifetime coaching program. I do it for those folks. But for people who are watching me here on YouTube, I'm going to say it again. You must use your own ability to adapt these strategies to your home and how it goes in your home. And as your kids make improvement, once you get joint attention and you get eye contact and you get some words popping out, maybe kids are labeling things that they're using and they're only using nouns. One of the moms on my program, one of the moms for the questions today, she talks about her little guy, Oliana. She says, I feel stuck. My son's receptive language has improved tremendously once I eliminated prompting. How do you work on expressive speech? He knows all is numbers, colors, shapes. How do parents work on expressive language without prompting? And so that's why I got doing this. And then VG was the one who's been following me for a while and has been, using language facilitation. I did the swapping, the prompting last fall. People who've been using it now for a couple months. In VG's case, she had a lot of functions going on at home for 3 weeks, and now she needs to get started working with her daughter again. This is the problem. Language facilitation isn't a here and there kind of working with flashcards and all of that kind of stuff. Language facilitation is the way you find opportunities to model the language your child needs to learn. And even during the tough times, during the holidays, during illnesses, during meltdowns, every single one of those situations is a social communication situation, and you should be facilitating language every step of the way. It's not about going out to buy a new deck of flashcards and get restarted. If you're going to get restarted with language facilitation, you go back to the Get Started with Language Facilitation Here playlist and start from the beginning, because this is a developmental process. And the biggest process of this whole thing is to make your child want to listen to every sound in every word that you say. If your child is not listening to every word, you as moms and dads know when your child is listening or not. Like I said, I get a lot of feedback. I'm getting more eye contact, more listening, more of that. If you see it fading, like I said, waves of communication, up and down process. If you see it fading, you need to go back to the beginning of this process, which is identifying what is blocking your child from learning natural spoken language. If you've started with me with swapping prompting, you know that you can make a difference for your child. If you're coming back looking for more strategies and more strategies, then you need to go back to look at your expectations for progress to determine, are you celebrating each level of progress, or are you expecting more from your child than they are able to give you, which is the number one blockage. And that's what flashcards are, a big red flag. This is why I keep talking about it. The very second you start telling your child what's on the card, you have lost them. You've lost them. And some parents will hear less pop out talking with their kids when they start language facilitation if their kids have been in the past prompted to say words from picture cards. So that's the other thing. Your kid could be really adverse to these things if they've had a bad experience with them in the past. So if there was PECs in your life, if there was picture exchange, if there was all of that going on, you have to get those habits eliminated by having a lot more fun with these cards and zero expectation for your child to label anything. No questions at all when you're looking at cards. Not even, do you like it? Not even, is it fun? Not even, no, zero questions. If you have cards, you want to use this vocabulary to teach your child, to spark your energy, to imagination, to teach your child all the vocabulary that's related to this image, but is not about this image at all. because the trick is you don't need any image. You have whatever's surrounding you. Literally, I can pick up stuff off the table. I can do language facilitation with a phone, with a rock, with a stick, on a walk around the block. There is stuff everywhere to talk about in your life. So let's see. All right, let me take a couple minutes and read what people have been writing. Tons of people joining me. Thank you so much, everybody joining me today. So Ramya, just subscribe. Great. It's all about play. And just so you know, everybody, I'm just going to talk really quick. If you haven't seen before, I wrote a book. It's called If It Isn't Fun, It Isn't Fun. And why did I use that title? Because this is what every child thinks about therapy. As a therapist for 30 years, I had to try to make every single session fun, because trust me, if it wasn't fun for the kiddo or the mom or me, nothing was getting done. I left there thinking that was a waste of my time. And I know it happens to a lot of parents because they're not synced with their speech therapist. They're not learning from their speech therapist every session. I had parents who I went to their house and they were all over every single day. What strategies can I do? How can I incorporate this? This isn't working for me. What can I do? And I had other moms who said, just, I'll be cooking. I'll see you in a minute, finish what you do and let me know when you're done, kind of thing. And even told me to take their kids into other rooms because they're like, my kid won't work while I'm there. And all of that is bunk. You have much, much, much better chance of teaching your child to use natural spoken language if you teach them to use the words they want to learn. But you will have zero chance of success if you try to teach your child the stuff the speech therapist tells you to teach them. Because the speech therapist doesn't know your house. They don't know your life. I mean, I arrived at many houses many times where I really felt unwelcome, right? Because by the child, the mom wanted me there to fix the child, but the child was not interested in working with me at all. They were a mama child. They wanted to be with mom. They weren't into teachers at all. And then there were other kids that would work for me and they wanted me to do a highly structured, very specific stuff, but they never would do it for their mom. Right? And all of these things are very, very important to consider. You are the one who is with your child all the time. And that's what language facilitation is all about. So it is all about keeping things play. So, hey, Rina, so I know it's late, but thank you so much for watching. You can always catch the replay if you want tomorrow, if you don't catch the whole thing. They're getting longer. I know more and more people are joining, but this was a really great one. So there's, okay, Hamsaleka. I don't know if I said you right now. Hi, I try using my child's own action pictures. That's a wonderful idea. Yes, if you can take pictures or video of your child doing things, especially if they love to pretend, that is the best of everything. That's the best tip ever. Best tip ever. Yep. So showing pic and telling its name, not is how it goes. So thanks for the explanations. So they have to look that what they look at is their area of interest, right? You're only going to look at things you're interested in, and you're only going to be interested in listening to someone talk about it if you're super interested in it too. And that's how it goes. So, yep. Let's see. This morning, my kid has seen a bunny hopping and said, bunny. Then I said, wow, you saw a bunny. And look, it's hopping. Say bye-bye, bunny. And she said, bye, bunny. I thought all my words got into her brain. Yes, Sharon, you're doing some language facilitation. So you just use that opportunity to talk about what your child was doing, and she related to you, and then she took your cue to say, bye, bunny, and did that all the time. I use that strategy at the aquarium all the time for kids too. Wonderful. All right, so let's see. Secret is he needs to see and show interest to start talking about it. Exactly. That's always the trick for every language facilitation. Think about if you were your child and everything coming at you was boring because nobody was considering what you would be interested in. That would be a rough life for you, right? But if people were like offering you things to learn about that you love, that's a fun day, right? That's the kid who loves to go to school and therapy. So, hey, thanks for hitting the like button, everybody. Right. As Marcy said, it works only when they're interested, and you need to find out what their interests are. If it isn't fun, it isn't fun. Your book is wonderful, Priyanka says. Thank you, Priyanka. I have experienced it firsthand how if it is not fun, it is not fun, right? Right? I think everybody has in life. I mean, I use this phrase, if it isn't fun, it isn't fun. Raising my 20-year-old, 20-plus-year-old daughters, their whole lives, every time they got into something, they made a decision about it. Or when we talked about whether they were making a decision, we were like, what do you think? Is it going to be a fun situation? Sometimes you don't know. But then you also need to understand that when it isn't fun, that's your internal trigger to decide this isn't right for me. Like, why should we struggle through learning when we can learn and have a good time? You know, why should we struggle to learn things that don't make any sense to us unless we understand why these things are important for us to live in society? We are not going to learn them. As humans, as adults even, we're like this. And so many times parents and providers do it too. I used to be guilty of this before I realized how I was just torturing kids. I mean, literally, I know that by making a kid say this thing over and over again, leg, leg, leg. If you're 10 times, you say it 10. If you're 6 times, you say it 6. I did it for decades. I did this picture. That's why you're being told by speech therapists to do it, because that's what you're told in speech therapy school works. But then when I started hanging out with neuroscientists and I learned about linguistics and I learned about what really is happening, and we have no idea what's going on from the language exposure, but we do know that it's the frontal lobe and the occipital lobe, that front to back memory that's lighting up every single time on fMRI studies when parents say, what's this? Or tell me, or which one, find her hat, point to her bubble, touch a bubble, how many bubbles? Anytime there is a question involved, it requires a child to access their memory banks. And it also fuels anxiety because now there's a test. Wait a minute, am I going to get the right answer? Is it the wrong answer? And if they hear the wrong answer, that's a negative reinforcement that makes them, guess what? Not want to play this game anymore. Right? And if they're scared because they didn't memorize it the first time you told them, that they aren't maybe sure about the right answer, guess what? They're not going to answer you. They're going to shut down and they're going to try to get away from that activity. So if you're going to play with picture cards, you got to follow this process. Otherwise, you are going to beat your head against the wall every single time. You're not going to like it. So let's see what else we got. On the live Q&A. Miss Tadione, hi, Christina. Nice to see you. Parents need to work and understand why they need to do the work. They just have to do it. It's not going to happen for you. And here's the other thing that you need to realize that, Christina helped me remind about is, unless you stop the behavior that is blocking the process, you can work as hard as any speech therapist all day, every day. But if you are not understanding what's going on from your child's perspective, it's not going to help you. And you can watch videos all day, every day, 200 videos. You can binge watch me for hours. But if you don't take these strategies and use your own head to learn how to adapt them, they're not going to work for you. So, all right. So Priyanka says, my son is 3.5 years old. He has had 5 seizures and docs say that's probably the cause of the late talking. It makes sense. He has started needs-based one-word communication. He also does a lot of random talking that sounds like echolalia. It could be, but he talks all day long and can barely stay quiet. That's really good. So all of that talking, Priyanka, is wonderful. It is self-talk, and we don't know why. It's not necessarily for you. He's not necessarily using it as a communication behavior for you. Self-talk happens with kids for a few different reasons. Number one, they do self-talk to practice. So remember, if you, Priyanka, are doing some amazing language facilitation and starting to teach your child say those words that they're thinking in their movies, then if they are like your son, Priyanka, it's amazing indication that your son is ready to start talking now, because they're hearing these words they love. He's hearing you say the words he loves, using nice sentences. But nobody's good at anything the first time they try. It's like riding a bicycle. They're going to wiggle and wobble and fall off a whole bunch of times before they say, hey, mom, look at me. I'm going to ride the bike. So this self-talk, they might do it a lot of times when they're playing alone, when they're first waking up and first going to sleep, when they're in that little zone, when they're in their head a lot and trying to, calm themselves down to go to sleep. You'll hear self-talking, whisper self-talking a lot during that time. Let it happen. Let it come and continue your language facilitation. The most important, the number one strategy that I give to everybody that I always say is make sure your child is listening, and they're listening when they look at you and smile, and they're picking it up when they start to try it themselves, right? And that's what this talking all is. It's coming out on its own way developmentally, and that's exactly true. It's exactly right, and it's exactly how it goes. The trick is whenever your child says something that's not very clear and you're in the vicinity where you are hearing them, number one, you let them know that you are so proud and excited about the fact that they are trying to talk, because here's your kid who used to use his body for all of his communication, now using his mouth to talk. So you got to celebrate that, even if it sounds like gobbledygook or echolalia or noises or ambulance sounds or whatever it is. You have to celebrate the fact that your child is trying. They're making a shift in their primary communication from using their body to using their mouth. And if they're trying it, that means you have triggered their motivation. So bravo, Priyanka. That is great. He talks all day long. All right. So Rena says, I'm going to take pictures of my kids doing things. Thanks to the mom. That is a great, great idea. All right. Priyanka says, I'm watching your videos and I'm doing some stuff out of it. Would appreciate some tips. Priyanka, there are tips in videos after video after video after video after video. And like I said, they're general tips for parents. The very specifics you have to look for. If you can't afford to work with me, then you're going to have to use your own resources to look through the videos on my page. If you go to my page and you go to the search on my Waves of Communication page, either on Facebook or on YouTube, you can find posts. You can scroll every single day. There are tips, strategies, videos, links to videos that I put out before with more tips attached to them every single day on my resources. And if you want to know, if you have the resources to invest in coaching, that's what I did, y'all, when I had my business, right? I had no idea how to start doing online speech, whatever I do, language facilitation coaching. It's not, I was a speech therapist who went around with a bag to everybody's house for 30 years. And then it didn't work for me anymore. And I almost gave up speech completely because I didn't know how I was going to be able to get to people. And then the universe guided me to work with a coach who showed me how to do it. But I'll tell you what, until I invested in that coach, and then when I did, even after I invested in the coach, I still go and look at videos to continue to learn, because that was just a very short-term bit. And my whole platform has evolved. Now I'm on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook. And I learned how to do that by getting specialized guidance about my unique situation, because there is no other online language facilitation coach that I know of in the world. If you know of one, by the way, let me know. And I want to hook up with them because we could join audiences. But I don't know anybody else who does it this way. So I had to do a lot of figuring things out on my own. And when it came to the point where it broke down and I didn't know what to do, even with all the online resources, I had to invest to work with someone. So here's my recommendation. If you are like, my coaching fees are too high and you don't have resources or whatever, but these resources aren't working for you, you need to, number one, understand how powerful you are and that these resources are helping lots of parents everywhere. And something's going on in your learning process that's blocking you from wanting to try these things. And if you can't figure out what's doing that, you have to dig in and keep trying. And then put money in a piggy bank or a special account or something like that. And then when you get enough money to buy the book and read the book and follow. It's literally in there, laid out step by step to get you to the first level. If you need to get past the first level, then you invest in the independent study course. And it is self-taught, but it is 8 modules of videos to get you all the way up to conversational language, even in bilingual households. All the strategies are laid out in videos, worksheets, and all of this stuff. Plus, there in that independent study course are resources to connect you with all the videos on the YouTube channel. So instead of just having to search randomly for things, you get guidance that takes you specifically to the videos on the channel to teach you how to do it. And if you work with that and you still can't do it, then you can upgrade for no additional money. I just roll the independent study course money into coaching. And you can do the starter program and work with me for 6 weeks to teach you exactly what you need. And if you can't figure that out and you still need help for lifelong, then you can invest in lifelong coaching. So you can move up through the coaching assistance. But there is no excuse for anybody, even if you have no resources at all, then you start socking away money if you need training. That's what I had to do. I never in a million years thought that I would work with a coach about setting up a website, because, I mean, you can learn that stuff on YouTube, right? But I'll tell you what, when I did, I knew exactly what to do, and I built my website in 2 weeks, and I knew exactly how to do it and figure it out, and I followed the step-by-steps. And so this is what it goes about with coaching, gals and guys. When you're watching these strategies that I'm giving you, they are general and they are for the masses, because there are parents following me with kids from 2 to 20 years old all over the world speaking multiple languages. You have to figure out how to do it yourself. And if you need help, then you need to dig in and use these resources. And I know I'm kind of labeling you and giving you a lecture about all that, and I hate to rant on about that, but I get emails every day from parents who are following my pages. And they tell me, I can't afford to work with you and I want you to give me specific strategies. I can't give you specific strategies. I don't know you. I don't know your family. I don't know your whatever. That's why independent, face-to-face coaching is necessary for folks like that. But there are so many resources here. Everybody, even before you spend money on me, should give it a try and see if you can do it yourself, because it is not for everybody. If you are still underlying a fix my kid parent, I'm not looking for folks like that in my job. I don't want to have to talk you into anything. If you need help, that's when you come to me. And that's why I do these things out here for resource. So good. So Priyanka says, you started reading my book, 40% done. You got to get through that whole thing so that you understand all the resources and everything that's going on, right? It's all about to you. It's all about up to you. So important takeaway from my session. Look at Ramya doing a summary for me. Looking and showing interest, make them feel fun and happy, involving and observing what we're talking about. Yes, that's 1 and 2. Number 3, using their own picture cards. Absolutely agree. Thank you so much. Good, Priyanka. Let's see. The name of the book. Here, I'll show you one more time. Ramya. If it isn't fun, it isn't fun. Teach your child to talk faster than speech therapy. It's available on Amazon in paperback, Kindle, and on Audible. I even did recorded an audiobook. I recorded it myself, and it's super good. I'm getting a lot of great feedback. So if it isn't fun, it isn't fun. If you want to learn about the programs and my Facebook connection, every information that you can find about the resources, even read the parent testimonials, all of that stuff are on my website, wavesofcommunication.com. I always do that action to help everybody remember. I don't even use business cards because I'm a minimalist. And I try to get everybody to use your social media when you can to learn more, because you can teach your kids to talk, everybody. You can do it, but you have to do the work yourself. And if you really need guidance, because, I tell you what, there are families, and I'm not saying that this is anything bad on the parent. Sometimes parents have facilitated because your kids have been in highly structured therapy for a very long time. So let's say you've got a 5-year-old who's identified as autistic, and you've been in ABA therapy since your child was younger than 2 years old. So for 3 years, your child has been experiencing training to comply with repetitive prompts of a very specific target so that the people at the therapy can collect data about your child's progress. And so in order to work in that kind of structure, your child would have been taught to have to sit in one place, to do things repeatedly, to follow directions, all of that stuff. And they may be so resistant to prompting, especially if you've been on top of that, prompting at home. I've got other families who I'm meeting, their kids go to school all day for 6 hours. Then they get another 2 hours of ABA after school every day. And then their parents work with them more on independent activities before they go to bed. Those children are so stuck, and those parents are so stuck in the prompt situation in your household. The parents are not the parent, because they sign up for my course, they sign up for my coaching, and they send me their videos, and they tell me, even they have stopped, even if they've watched the Swapping the Prompting Challenge, I'm watching on the videos, and the only thing they're telling their kids is questions and directions. They don't realize it. You don't even realize it's happening to you, because these situations get developed in your household because of the circumstances. And so I don't look at those things. I look at them as, this is why you are where you are. But big habits, long-standing habits and learning characteristics that have been trained into your child, how to use this front back memorization, answer questions, respond to directions, and do this, say this, right? If they've had that only for years of their life, that is massive to overcome. You can see a shift very quickly, but creating new long-term habits is a long-term job. It's very much like actually weight loss or addiction, breaking addiction, or any of those things. It's lifestyle change. It's not just about activities and things you do. It's about, how do you move through your day as a language facilitator parent? This is what you have to learn, and you have to put on that language facilitator hat 24/7 all day long to get yourself out of those prompt dependent traits, those habits, because that's all that's causing it. Literally, kids with seizure disorders, brain malformation, autism spectrum disorders is very popular, and they're all being labeled with that. But even kids who have other physiological history of ear infections and sensory processing issues, all of them have these things going on for sure, right? These physiological things that have been identified. However, on top of, I shouldn't say however, I should say and, on top of that, because of the struggles of those symptoms, the families are finding that they are stuck in these habits. And that's what happens. You have to get, right, resistant to prompt structure, right? So Ramya, there's a lot of things, repetitive and echolalia. That's how do we find out if there are ear infections? You go to the doctor and have them look in your child's ear. They can tell you if there are ear infections. If your child has had a lot of ear, nose, and throat issues in the past, like runny noses, allergies, they could have ear fluid. Ramya, you should watch if you do have that going on in your child's life, then you should watch the videos on my page that talk about ear infections, how ear issues are misdiagnosed as autism diagnosis, and why I do not advocate for diagnosis in children under 3 or even 4 years old, because there are videos all about all of those things, because parents are the best language facilitators. So, all right, then I've been at this for over an hour today, and it's time for me to get out of here to get ready for my next client that I have, a private client that I'm working with today. So I have to pop off, but thank you so much for joining me today again, everybody. Please check out the book, check out the other videos on YouTube, check out my website, wavesofcommunication.com, and I will see you all on my next live Q&A over on Facebook every Thursday at 2 p.m. Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining me, and good day for all of you who are here, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye for now.